Welcome, zombie fans, to this week's episode of Super Fantastic Not the Right Podcast.
What?
Whoa!
What?
Clearly, need more caffeine today. Psych! Welcome, zombie fans, to this week's episode of Reanimated. We are on episode 71. I am here with my intrepid co-host, Stuart Tiffin. Hello, Stuart.
Good day, HA. Are you having a good day?
I thought I was. And clearly, I am not and need more caffeine. Taking care of that right now. In any case, this episode, like all episodes, is brought to you by Squarespace, our buddies at Squarespace. This is the all-in-one platform. Makes it really easy to create your own website. They have a lot of tools and customizations that you can use, and we use it here at Reanimated. It's awesome. If you're a first-time user, you can throw in the offer code ZOMBIE, which is not case-sensitive, and you'll get 10% off, which is really cool. So thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring Reanimated. So today, what have we got going on, Stuart?
Today we got where we're going to be doing a review of a film called Frankenstein's Army that came out in 2013. And we're going to be talking about the news.
Cool. What's first up in the hopper?
Yeah. Today in the news. So I was perusing the Facebook, as one will, and came across... Okay, let me rewind. I used to live in Germany, and when I lived in Germany, it was difficult to listen to the radio, like the real radio. You could always stream American radio stations by the internet, which is one of the nice things about living abroad and being able to hear, familiar voices. But one of the radio stations I discovered in Germany that I liked a lot is actually an Austrian station called FM4, or FM4. It means it's just FM4, and it's a they play a lot of contemporary good music. And one of the coolest things about this radio station is that it's a mother tongue station, basically, and they have a group of different DJs and newsreaders who all read in their native language. So they have Brits reading in English and French people reading in French, and of course mostly Austrians reading in German. But so you can hear just a lot of different languages there, and it makes sense because they're based in Vienna, and Vienna as was kind of the center of the world for a while with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and a lot of different cultures kind of meet there. And so I don't know, I really like that radio station. That's the background. And then so I see on their Facebook page none other than Charlie Adlard drawing a zombie, kind of like a quick sketch of a zombie head in his character, in his style. And then he signs it at the end. A typical FM4 listener is that's the portrait of that he's been drawing. And I discovered that he's English, apparently. Didn't know that.
Well, that's kind of cool.
It's just a tiny thing. It'll just be in the show notes. And it's also a plug that people interested in, I don't know. They play a decent mix of music because of the time change. While I'm in California, I unfortunately mostly listen to them when they're in their middle of the night weird techno phase. But their daytime stuff is a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
Well, your opinion is very important, Stuart.
Indeed.
So, I mean, we're a little late on the zombie news today, but I did find this wonderful little article on CNET about zombie worms, ancient zombie worms, in fact.
We've talked about the zombie worms.
We have talked about them, but now they're realizing, or maybe this is sort of like an update, that they have caused a lot more damage, or I don't want to say damage, but sort of changed the reason why there are certain fossils that we can't find, or maybe there's a dearth of fossils, is because they think that these wonderful little creatures sort of just consumed them.
Yeah.
So, especially for marine vertebrate skeletons. So they tended to kind of take care of, maybe they were doing a service, getting rid of all those carcasses and the bone and stuff like that. But it makes a lot more sense now that we just don't have quite as many fossilized skeletons. So, and basically what these little beauties do is that they eat bone collagen and lipids that were converted into energy by bacteria that live inside the worm. So I'm not really angry at the zombie worms. I kind of think that they're a little bit insane to think about. and also make me think a little bit of The Strain. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
100 million-year-old worms eating the bones of all the whales.
Right.
Forever.
And then the last little bit of news was on the campus at Michigan State University as part of one of their classes, which we talked about a bit, is they had like a campus-wide game, I guess. Some sort of, I mean, would you call it LARPing? I guess it's a little bit LARPing.
It is a little bit, yeah. But it's still cool. I don't know. I feel like I might be coming across as anti-LARP on this podcast. But I think that this looks like a good time.
Yeah, and the class that they were teaching is called Surviving the Coming Zombie Apocalypse. So basically the idea is that there were different people on different teams, humans or zombies, and it was like a war game basically. But this took place over a couple of days, so it was kind of cool. And people were saying it was a great chance to meet people you wouldn't normally interact with. So I don't know. I thought this looked kind of fun. And a couple of the folks were saying that they were concerned that people not on campus would have no idea what was going on there, but they all look like they're having, a whale of a time. A whale not eaten by zombie worms.
Indeed. So yeah, Nerf guns and it's basically a big game of tag with Nerf guns, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
Except that people who get tagged are also then zombie. But yeah, it looks cool. And the fact that they've had up to 800 participants in this annual event, it just seems like something that might be on Community,
No, absolutely. That's what it reminded me of. So
yeah.
I don't know. I thought it seemed kind of fun.
Yeah.
But, this was a fake war. We're going to talk about a real war in our review. Or sort of, I guess.
Did you want to mention the fact that you saw Maggie?
Oh, yes. Last little bit. I saw the trailer for Maggie in theater. And it was kind of weird because I went to see Ex Machina this past week, which is the Alex Garland creation, most recent creation. He's the person that was involved with 28 Days Later, The Beach. He's pretty talented. I tend to like the things that he did. I did like Ex Machina. I had a couple of issues with it, but overall I think it's definitely worth seeing, and that opens nationwide for like a wider release coming this week, I believe, this Friday. But it was interesting. There were some extra scenes within this Maggie trailer that I had not seen. Mm-hmm. So the makeup looks pretty good. I'm a little bit, I don't know, I'm a little bit worried about it, but the extra bits I saw, I still want to see this in theater. I think it's going to be kind of cool. Right now it's actually playing at the Tribeca Film Festival, which unfortunately I'm not going to be able to catch, but I will hopefully catch it in May when it's actually released in theaters. So
he has, Alex Garland is mostly a writer. Like, he's only directed 2 films. So, oh my God, he wrote Dread.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was amazing. He's great.
All right. I felt like in my head, I think that he did Trainspotting, but that must be not the case because I'm not seeing it in his filmography.
No, I don't think that's him.
Okay. Well, I was going to say.
But he's really good. The script for this and the acting was pretty good. So
you think, as far as him moving, to the behind the camera and doing the direction, did you feel like this film was well directed?
I definitely feel it was well directed. It is I wouldn't call it a small budget, but it is a smaller budget independent film, and I think that the things he was trying to do with it, he did successfully with a couple of a couple of criticisms, but I don't want to get too much into that. We can talk about that after you get to see it.
Okay. Well, whenever that might happen. If it is a limited indie release, I might not get that opportunity.
Well, it was a limited release for the past couple of weeks, and then apparently it is there's a wider release because it had there was great reception for it. So
cool.
Supposedly it is going to be in many theaters this coming week. So you'll be able to see it. And my guess is that, and it seems like this is happening a lot more, even if it doesn't, you'll probably be able to see it on Amazon Prime or Google Play or Netflix probably in the near future.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that opportunity. I, too, went to the movies this week.
What did you see?
I went and saw Woman in Gold, which has nothing to do with zombies or anything that you or I ordinarily talk about. It's a movie about art restitution.
Wait, was this the Helen Mirren,
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds? Okay.
Yeah, Daniel Bruhl. Fantastic movie, honestly. Not gonna lie, cried a little bit. Little tears were shed.
Well, I mean, it is a Simon Curtis film. That's what he goes for, right?
Who is Simon Curtis?
Simon Curtis is the person who did Love Actually, I think.
Oh,
Maybe I'm wrong. Or My Week with Marilyn?
haven't seen that one. Either way, it was a it was a date night kind of thing. So I went in with no expectations, and I knew nothing about the plot, and it was awesome. But I'm a big fan of Gustav Klimt, and it's basically all about peripherally about Gustav Klimt's artwork and the family.
Well, I remember this is about the painting, and it was basically taken by it was confiscated
by the Nazis.
And then it ended up at a museum in Austria, which is and they had said that it was left to them, but apparently it was not. So I actually remember this when it went through the court system.
It went to the Supreme Court here, actually, in the U.S. It's a good story. It's so I would recommend it.
Awesome. No, I'm wrong. He had nothing to do with that, but he did have something to do with the My Week with Marilyn.
Simon Curtis.
Yep. He's a little. So he likes these little stories. So that's kind of cool. Maybe I will have to check it out.
I think you should. Well, speaking of little stories, we went for a ride this week with
Oh yes, we did.
the Russian army.
So I tried to convince Bill to watch this with me, and got about 5 minutes in, and he was like, "I'm out. Go watch this on your laptop."
Holly sat through the whole thing.
Oh, Holly's a trooper. Bill is
And
not a.
honestly, at the end of it, my first thing that I said was, "That is not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be." And she said, "I agree."
Yeah, I had a similar feeling. So let's talk a little bit about this film.
So Netflix told me when I started to play it that they told that their rating system is really weird, right? They tell you what they think you're gonna think about it. So like when they show you a 1 star before you've seen something, they're like, "This is what we think you're gonna say." But actually, I gave it 3 stars.
All right, I would do that with some caveats.
I'm taking it at what it is, and this is a B movie slasher. But it gets so many points for effort in my book.
It does. So let's talk a little bit about the creator of this film. Do you know anything about him?
Not a thing.
Okay, so Richard Rapphorst is the director for this. And prior to this, he was trying to get this film off the ground called Worst Case Scenario, which was a zombie film sort of set. It was set, this is around, I think in 2006 this happened, and kept trying to get funding. And the plot of this was that it was the World Cup finale between Germany and Netherlands. And when Germany loses, as a revenge, they sent out like a zombie horde. So in any case, there was like tons of financial problems with this. Finally, it just got canceled. And so he moved on and began working on Frankenstein's army. So there you have it. That is his little history.
Yeah.
So the snapshot of this film, I can see that maybe this guy was like, okay, we want a zombie horde and we still want Germans, and let's set this in a totally different scenario. So in any case,
from what I'd read, they had actually a lot of the monster designs from Frankenstein's army were pre-existing based on that previous project.
Right.
So they'd already done a lot of the legwork, and so they just had kind of like because honestly, just the sheer variety and number of zombie creatures is one of the reasons why it's like 2 stars in and of itself.
Right. So I would say, okay, if you're not a horror film fan, you're not going to like this. But if you are, this is the zombie creation, like the creatures in this, the effects. They didn't use any CGI. It was very old school in terms of how they created the different, the shots of the zombots, as they were calling them. It was pretty cool to see what they came up with, and I thought that the monsters were pretty awesome. Just the ingenuity.
Mm-hmm. It's like nonstop, like new revelations. You didn't see the same ones very many times. Maybe you saw them twice. Yeah.
And it was definitely like a classic horror feel to it. It's like very cheesy and schlocky, and humorous at the same time because it's so schlocky. Mm-hmm. But it was definite, and the effects with the blood and things like that. It felt very classic horror film to me, which is all right. The things I didn't like so much about it, I feel like they could have worked on the script a little bit more.
It was tough to follow the dialogue. The plot kind of came together at the end, but they weren't easy.
Right. And they could have done with a little bit of editing. The lead up felt very, very long to me because, I just wanted to see the monsters. And when they did, they came up in like full force. It was like haunted house scenario where every corner you're seeing like a different creature, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah. And it's a found footage style film, which brings with it its own kind of negative pedigree, honestly. Found footage, it worked well once or twice. I think Cloverfield was okay, and Blair Witch was obviously terrifying. I guess that's subjective. Not everybody thinks so, but when I saw it, I didn't sleep very well for a while. But it's also found footage in a totally anachronistic way because they're using like a handheld camera with a microphone attached in 1945 or 44.
Which wouldn't happen. So.
Yeah. So they might have been better served just making this a straight film, but they did some tricks like with that. They had a magnifying lens that kept flipping over, and they would cut from scene to scene with some weird distortion, which I appreciated the effort that they were making to try and date it.
Right, and I liked that. That was kind of cool. I also very much like seeing Luke Newberry in this film.
Yeah, Kieran Walker making a comeback, and like a very different kind of character. He didn't actually have that many lines, did he? No,
he didn't. And actually, I was pleasantly surprised to see that he actually survived this whole debacle. And because just the way his character is, it is here as it is in the flesh. Like he's sort of the I don't want to call him the ingenue, but he's sort of the young, innocent person here. And so you kind of think he's going to bite it really early on. And no, he prevails. So it's awesome. I'm really happy about him. I did find it very funny that his character was often asking questions like, why do I need to turn the lights on?
Because we need to go down to the basement.
It's like, why are you sending me down to the basement? But it is kind of funny just because he's asking the obvious questions like, why would I ever want to go down to the basement? But the answers were always because we need lights. So
yeah.
I don't know. Again, the script writing could have used a little more help, but I was psyched to see him. Did
you recognize anybody else?
Not really.
The guy who played Frankenstein's descendant, he's been in a few things, but the thing I recognized him from was something I think it was called 15 Minutes. It was about a couple of Eastern European terrorists in New York City.
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
It wasn't very good, but he has a face that one will recognize, and I think he's typecast as playing a villain forever.
He plays a pretty good crazy villain, though.
Yeah, he does.
And he really likes brains. A lot.
Yeah.
But I definitely... I went into this thinking that it was just going to be beyond horrible. And it was, but not as horrible as I thought it was going to be. It was horrible in kind of a good horror film way.
I was glued to it, man. I didn't my attention was not elsewhere. I watched this all the way through, and I enjoyed it. Like
Mine was, I will say, mine in the beginning, I was kind of like, move it along, and
yeah, okay,
and
that's
so,
fair.
but once they got to the point where the monsters were introduced, then I was like, okay, this is all right. And
Even in all that lead up, I was still noticing that the sets, every set that they wandered through, even in the pre-horror stage when they're just like, we're in a war zone, all the sets were, while it looked like it could just be somebody's like big backyard,
it looked good though. You're right.
They put a lot of effort into every set.
There was a lot of effort into the craft of the set design.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the only, as I said, like the only real criticism I had is that you go through all this effort for these beautiful sets, amazing effects in terms of what you're trying to do with it, and everything else was a little bit lacking. It was very thin, because it was very hard to follow where they were going with this plot. The characters, you didn't really get any sort of interaction out of them other than when they're yelling at each other. I don't know, it just was a little strange. So. But the sets were cool, and the effort that they put into making that world believable was admirable.
But this project was what, Dutch, American, and Czech collaboration, and I know that the Dutch government, if they're anything like the Germans, will probably kick in some dollars for projects like this. So it depends on how much of it was, how much of it was done there. I don't know if the Czech Republic is the same way.
Well, I would imagine maybe it had a little bit. I don't know. It would make sense if this was like this kind of a collaboration.
Yeah, based on the amount of like we've been saying, the set design, the costume, the effects that are not CG, there must have been some money, you know?
Yeah.
Acting, not so much, but Luke Newberry is probably completely unknown at this point.
Yeah, because this is definitely before In the Flesh, right?
Just like a year before, but yeah. Or maybe the same year that the first season came out.
The biggest thing about this, just in terms of the monsters, is that there's like just a whole little... I feel like we were watching a little bit Cabin in the Woods. You know, like how they kept coming out and you kept seeing new monsters. I thought that was kind of cool.
I tried to keep track of all the different monster types, and I literally lost track. I lost count.
Yeah, there is... There's a whole, on IGN, there's like a little photo gallery of all of them.
Oh,
like
that's good.
The drawings and stuff like that, which you should put in the show notes because they're kind of cool.
I'll just read you some of my my titles that I gave them. The first one that they ran into, actually I didn't write this one down, but that was basically like screwdriver finger monster.
You know, the screwdriver finger monster, when they were showing, they come across the monster in this abandoned place. So this is their first interaction.
I was actually talking about the one in the woods who they thought was dead.
Oh, that one. I thought you meant, okay, different monster.
That one was Creepy Kill Monster.
Yeah, Creepy Kill Monster was freaking creepy.
Yeah. And I feel like they were actually taking quite a page out of Hellboy in so far as the creature design. You've seen Hellboy, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I love
okay.
Hellboy.
So like the Clockwork Nazi, right?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. That absolutely is a good description.
It feels like that was what they were kind of
like a little
channeling.
bit of the steampunk kind of sensibility.
Yeah. Did you just send me something?
I did. And this is the article with the gallery of monsters and all their names. I kind of like the title of the last one, which is called The Dentist Medic. What did you think of Eva? The weird conehead female singing assistant.
Kind of like a Twi'lek.
Yep.
I was trying to figure out if she was she the German nurse lady from the church?
I think so, yeah.
Because it seemed like everybody who was alive ended up as a
right,
as a zombie.
But I couldn't figure out why he gave her the head thing.
No, she was cool, like creepy as most of them were. Maybe not as creepy as the thing next to her in this IGN article. It was like a little hatch on a pair of children's legs.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Oh, it was really and it was like, who was in that suit? You know?
I don't know, but it was really disturbing. Just the movement.
Yeah.
Like this thing was, it was just fascinating. Like if you only had to look at the monsters, that would have probably been enough.
Yeah.
I also liked the weird stilty thing with the gas mask.
Yes. That is, I feel like cosplay, not, it's probably pretty hard to make, but I think that would be an amazing Halloween costume.
That really would be. I mean,
Yeah. You got like sickle hands, lobster arms, oyster head, which they call razor teeth.
I would have called that lobster arms too.
Well, there was a lobster arms, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I don't know if they call them lobster. I don't even see lobster arms in this list. There he is. They call him machete.
Lobster arms is much cooler.
Yeah. Stilts drill face. It's that guy. And there weren't that many jump scares, which I liked about this film too, because so many of these, I don't even know what genre to put this in, other than like B horror. But
it's definitely B horror film.
It's B horror for sure. But I feel like a lot of B horror films will rely on jump scares a lot more than
this did, yeah.
Than this did, and there wasn't really any need because everything was horrifying and terrifying.
Right.
Like all of the running around in the various complexes that they kind of ended up in.
Right.
And then, okay, so one weird scene that I would like to just point at as being dumb.
Which one would that be?
They're interrogating... They don't know that they've got Frankenstein, but they're interrogating him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the first thing they do, Dimitri, the filmmaker, or Dima, they called him all the time, but I guess his name is Dimitri. He's like, okay, I'm going to interrogate this guy and get some information out of him. And then he basically threatens a bunny rabbit to do that.
Yeah, I thought that was strange too.
It was a little weird. And then the crazy
I actually had to rewind it to make sure that I understood that that's what actually was happening there.
Yeah.
Because I was like, did I miss something that's what he's using as a threat?
I didn't understand that at all.
Right? So I actually will admit that I had to.
So they escalated it pretty quickly, though.
They did.
It was just like, why are we... Okay, is this just to show that these guys are totally out of their league in terms of threatening horrible things to people? Because I'm pretty sure that Frankenstein is going to do worse things than threaten your bunny.
A lot worse things, apparently, and he's had a sordid history of doing things to cats, apparently. Which he keeps talking about. Or at least that's what I think he was saying. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, he did refer to that with his dad saying that it was an abomination or something.
Right, because apparently, part of how he started experimenting with this type of surgery was making sort of cyborg cats, or at least that's what I was understanding it to be. And then, the Nazis had the grand idea, or Hitler had the grand idea of moving this over into human experimentation.
Fantastic. Yeah. The lady's head on a teddy bear.
Ugh.
And it sounded like she was having a sexual experience.
It did. It was really creepy. There's a lot of creepiness to go with this film.
I guess the list of creepy things could just go on forever.
Go on and on. I would say if you're looking to just make a big bucket of popcorn and you want just like a super cheesy horror film, this is the way to go. This felt, I'd really love to hear a bit of the commentary about the monsters and the creation of this.
Oh, God, yeah, like a director's commentary DVD?
Yeah. I know that there was, when they released it, there was a lot of extras that went along with this, and maybe that is part of it, but I just think that the creation of the monsters and all that went along with that would probably be super fascinating. So, because I'm fascinated by it, and I keep looking at these galleries and being like, this is cool. So, yeah, so that's about it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, surprisingly better than I thought it would be, if you don't mind the script piece of it.
Just put that aside, yeah, and just enjoy it for
what it is.
Craziness that it is. Okay, so that's our review of Frankenstein's Army. It was better than we thought it was going to be. That would be the tagline, I think, to my review. And
I also think for diehard zombie fans or diehard horror fans, I don't think you're going to get this. This won't be appreciated by the general audiences. Even
Yes,
though even though Holly thought it was better than she thought it was going to be.
which honestly, high praise. I can't stress that enough. And so we're going to move on from Frankenstein's Army to reviewing the third out of 100 million of the Resident Evil films. So this would be Resident Evil Extinction from 2007.
Right, and there's yet another Resident Evil film coming out this year. The final is it? Wait, no. There's one this year, and then there's another next year. So, yeah.
Poor Mia. Poor Mia. She needs to get done with this series.
Yes, she does. Although the one that's supposedly coming out in 2016 is supposedly called The Final Chapter. And the one that's either out or coming out this year is Resident Evil Retribution. So, yeah, I think they're going to have to switch this over. And did you also hear that they're doing a remake?
They're rebooting it?
I think so.
Well, there's still dollars to beat out of this horse's corpse, Why not?
Right not. So, anywho, that's that for this week. If you'd like to drop us a line, feel free to find us on the Twitters, Reanimated PCast, or drop us a line on the site, reanimatedpodcast.com.
That's correct.
Look at me getting it correct.
Look at you.
And not flipping them around.
And so for Super Fantastic Nerd Hour, this is Stuart Tiffin saying, wrong podcast.
Nice. Adios.
Bye.